Okay, thanks everyone for coming today. I'm focusing on the last two minor releases that we've done. The previous one just had one feature in it, and so I didn't have a session specifically for that. We just explained how the feature worked on the message board. I'm going to organize it into sort of two parts, the presentation. So the early part, I'm going to focus on working in CIOC and the changes to the software itself. And then at the end of the session, I'm going to talk about the WordPress plugin and actually show you how it works, how to install it, changing settings, all that kind of stuff. So if you're totally uninterested in the WordPress plugin for CIOC, then you can probably tune out early unless you have questions. If you do have a question, please raise your hand or type in the chat. I'll do my best to keep an eye out for any questions during the presentation, and I'll stay longer after the end of the session if anyone has any additional questions. Okay, so I'm going to be asking for some volunteers in the middle of this session to actually go into your database and take a look at some things. So hopefully we've got some willing folks ready to let me use their site to do some demonstrations today. We'll start with a demo in my own site, which is for the language field changes. And this is not Volunteer Guelph's site. This was just me testing Volunteer Guelph's template, so ignore the fact that it says Volunteer Guelph. Okay, so there's a new setting for the languages field that allows you to collect additional details about the specific service language, and it's called language details. So down in our checklist setup, we've got, besides languages, we now have a new section called languages detail that you can turn on. So in order to actually have this work, you have to make sure that you don't have these extra values hidden. So if you're confused about why you don't see this option in your software, you probably need to come in here and actually unhide the options that you're interested in using. So that's step one. I'll quickly show you how this looks in an actual record. Okay, so when you have this feature enabled, then you will see some extra options next to the language that you choose. Those options only appear when you actually select the box. So, and once I click French, I'll get access to all of these additional options. For those in the Ontario database, there's already been some help text added. If you hover over the, oh, why are you not working? If you click this, it's supposed to pop out help text, and I apparently broke this in the last update, so I'll go and have a look at it. But this will tell you what that explicitly means. So the values that have been supplied to those in the Ontario database are reception, program, publication, website, and interpretation, but more of these can be added. So if you want to add one that's not in the list, you can go into the setup and do that. It is possible to have something different from what other people are using because they can be shown and hidden for different groups. So if they don't apply to you, you can just choose the ones that actually apply to you. And the notes now are part of these extra options, so you won't see the ability to add notes next to a language until you check it. Are there any questions about that change? I think a lot of you have already seen it or have heard about it at this point, so that's probably not too new. Okay, so most of the rest of the changes are really about the public interacting with your website. So I'll go to this record to start with the first one, which is the ability to do Google Translate built in. So a lot of people had put Google Translate widgets manually into their site with page messages, but that sometimes conflicted with JavaScript and other things on the page. And this one has been put in such a way that we know it isn't conflicting with maps or anything else, and it can be automatically added to your record details and search from your view setup. It includes the ability to have a disclaimer pop up so that you can warn people that you're not responsible for the terrible translations that will result from using Google Translate, because although they can be helpful, they also can be inaccurate. So having some kind of a disclaimer that goes along with your Google Translate is a really good idea. So that's how it works. And then of course, if I pick a language, it's going to actually do some vague sort of translation for me. There's into French. So in order to turn this feature on, I'm going to close Google Translate here. In order to turn this feature on, we're going to go to the setup page and go to views. So all you have to do to turn it on in the view that you want is click Show Google Translate Widget. If you want a disclaimer, right there, and that's it, you're done. Does anyone have any questions about how the Google Translate widget works? It only shows up on the view edit or the search results and the record details and not anywhere else. But once the user turns it on, it's kind of sticky, so it will follow them around. But the original option to turn it on only shows up on the search results and record details. Okay, I'll assume silence means that's clear. All right, so next on our list is we made a huge number of interface changes, some of which were probably really, really obvious when you logged in on Monday, like icons everywhere and things like that. So we've installed a new design library called Bootstrap, and we're bringing it in really gradually so that it doesn't cause any disruption or causes the minimum amount of disruption to people who've made their own layouts or are doing something other than what's built into CIOC. So by kind of phasing it in, we're trying to minimize the chance of anything going really terribly wrong for anyone who's built anything custom with the software. But by the end of the year, we'll be rolling it out more fully, and it's going to open up all kinds of really fantastic options to us for doing really cool things with the software. I want to demonstrate something that we don't do, but that I want to do as an example of why this change is so great. So, for example, one of the things that we're looking to put in is something like this, so that when you're on your entry form, you'll be able to see all the sections on your entry form. It'll tell you where you are in the form. You'll be able to click down to any part of it and automatically jump down to the spot in your data entry form where you're doing your work. So, and ideally when I put this feature in, I'll also be showing you which sections have feedback, so that if you're in editing your record, this will be red. I'll know it has feedback. I can click down to it, see the fields that are in that section. It'll show me which of the fields have feedback, and basically save you a ton of time scrolling around your giant data entry form. So this is the kind of thing that we start to be able to do by having access to a really great design library. The other big advantage is that it just looks better. So there's all kinds of really fabulous things we can do for mobile friendliness and design. This page, for example, is now in a mobile friendly design. So it'll shrink up, it'll eventually start popping, so that eventually we can get to the point where every single page in the software, including the admin areas, are all mobile friendly and will work on any kind of device. So it's a bit of a painful transition to make, because it's a very huge change in how we write and organize the software, but the benefits are enormous. So again, here's the Bootstrap enabled template, and we can watch how this template changes as we go from phone to tablet to desktop. So you'll start to see over the next few months, more and more of our pages will be will change the way that their design and layout works. We also got access to a number of open icon libraries, so that's part of why you see icons popping up all over the place all of a sudden, is that we now have the ability to leverage all of these great icon libraries to provide a little bit more sort of visual appeal, but also some kind of pattern recognition for people working in the software and for the public to make it easier for them to find what they want. Does anyone have any questions about that change in general before I get into detail? Okay. So first I'm going to show you some of the new layouts that we've built using this new design library, and then I'm going to talk about how we have changed the settings forms to allow you to customize them. So I'm bringing up some actual member sites now. So one of the things with the icons is, of course, that the taxonomy search now at the top level on the public side has icons that go along with the categories if you're using one of the new Bootstrap search forms. All of the panels all have icons or can have icons that you can specify. The menu items can all do that as well. And this again is a mobile friendly layout. So if I, sorry. Look at what it looks like on a phone. We can watch how this changes as the size grows and shrinks. So this header here is called a banner header. So you can this is for anyone who's got a long logo or wants to use pictures or anything like that. We've added a new element called a tagline. Currently this is the only header that uses tagline, but I'll be adding it to all of them, so that if you want to add a little bit of extra text, a motto, slogan, whatever, you've got a place to do it. Most of these elements already existed, so things like this, these panels already existed in current templates, and we've just brought them forward to this new search layout. Here's another example of the new CIC search form. This is called a breadcrumb header. So this is a breadcrumb for anyone who's wondering what the heck a breadcrumb is. It basically means that a menu that shows you where you are in the site. So it's showing me right now that I'm on the organization program search page. If I went into a specific here we go. So now it knows I'm in browse by service category. So this particular header layout is called the dual header, one header, two header, breadcrumb. And we've got some new footers. So this footer here is called large footer alternate. It gives you a place to enter some text of your choosing, contact details. I'll show you how to enter those later. And then another section of text of your choosing. There's also places to add links and other things. There's another version of that footer that has two columns. So it has the section for you to put contact information and links, and then a section for just text of your choosing. This is the same header, just different colors. So this again is the breadcrumb header. And the colors can be almost anything here. So it doesn't need to be white and black. It can be purple, it can be green, it can be anything you want. And we've got a few new volunteer search pages as well. So this is called the dual panel search. So you have one panel for doing the traditional step-by-step student search, search tips, keyword search, and then a second panel which allows you to customize. It has to be 6, so don't pick less than 6 things or it'll look terrible, but it lets you customize 6 things to put on the panel. So you can choose some of the built-in ones like what's new, interests, and organizations, but then you can actually manually add other things. So if you didn't want to have a what's new, you could have 4 custom menu items instead. That made a total of 6. If you wanted to pull browse by interest off, you could again have 4 custom links here as well. So I'll show you how to change all these settings. On all of these templates, all of the parts are customizable. So this text here, customizable, this text, this icon, this text, this icon, this text, this icon, all of this are all editable now in the software. And we've added the ability to do not just menu items, but drop-down menus. So instead of being limited to a small number because adding a lot of menu items was too crowded in the past, you now have the ability to use drop-downs in order to add many, many menu items. So most of the new layouts support the drop-downs. Not all of them do yet, but they will. So you can have both the side menu and the top menu have a drop-down with multiple items in it. The other new volunteer search is called the 6-panel search. So the 6-panel search has some features that are not available anywhere else at the moment. That includes the popular categories. So this looks at what your actual users in your database are wanting to participate in. So it'll look at the volunteer profiles, it'll look at what people say that they like, and it will choose categories according to that. So it's going to change over time and according to that local site. So for instance, if I switch to a different region, I'm in Simcoe right now, if I switch to Muskoka, I get a totally different list of popular categories because what's popular in this site is different than what was popular in the other region. Organizations work similarly, so it's a ranking system based on how new the opportunity is, but also which opportunities people are applying to. So if you have lots of people all interested in the same opportunity, the ranking of that organization goes up and they appear higher in the list. There's a spotlight opportunity. So the spotlight opportunity allows you to either specify one specific interest that will always come up, or say any or random, and every time you go to the page, it's a different one. If I reload it again, different one. So that allows you to change the spotlight a bit over time, or just give lots of opportunity for exposure to many different opportunities. So the 6-panel search, these are not fixed. So these panels are not all required. You can turn them on and off and add new ones. So there's 2 custom panels, left and right. I'll show you how to change those. We'll get into a whole section on settings later. But know that there's 2 panels you can put in. One goes first, one goes last, that are custom panels. And then any of the other 4 can be turned on and off so that you can actually arrange this differently if you want to do something different for your community. So if it doesn't make sense to you to have organizations and you want to have a custom panel that has some other thing, content from your calendar, whatever you want to do, then you can add another custom panel and put something else in it entirely. If you don't want to do a spotlight opportunity and want custom content instead, you can do that. But in total, you want to have 6, because if you don't, it will look really weird. You'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blank. So overall, if you want to use the 6 panel, you need to have 6 items, but what those 6 items are is customizable. So this, like the other ones, is a mobile-friendly search. Let me pick something. So there's phone, tablet, desktop. One of the things that we're starting to build in, but will be more available soon, is the ability to change the size of your container. So the idea of a container is that everything in the main section of the page is contained, basically. And what's often good for staff, having the most amount of data on your screen, is not very attractive for the public often. So this is very, very wide, and the search results look kind of awful for the public. So right now, a few of our searches already have this idea of a container where there's a limit to how how big it can get. So let's assume I have a super huge screen, it's still going to contain the information in a restricted way so that I don't end up with kind of weird looking. It's always contained in this, no matter what the size of my screen is, it's always going to keep it in kind of a reasonable format, versus if I'm in something like this. I don't know what I'm going to have in here. Here we go. Test site has questionable things. If I zoom out, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and it frankly looks really bad. So right now you have to choose one of our contained templates, the new ones, in order to get that container idea. But what's going to happen is you're going to get a choice in the future of whether you want to be in a container or what's called a fluid container, which fills the whole screen. So for staff and logged in users, filling the whole screen makes sense because you want that real estate. And for the public, it doesn't make sense because it's unattractive. So we've got a question about the device view. So we did a little demo a few months ago on doing mobile friendliness audits, and I showed off some of the ways that you can use your browser to see what your site looks like depending on what kind of device you're on. So right now I'm in Chrome, and the tools in Chrome are called the developer tools. So I just go more tools, developer tools, and that gives me access to the mobile evaluation. So I would just click the little mobile, there's a little mobile button up here. And in Firefox, I can do exactly the same thing. So in Firefox, it's called Web Developer Responsive Design View. And that allows you to see different kinds of screen sizes and what happens at those screen sizes. They're both excellent tools. I use them both. They are different, so you may prefer one over the other, but it's definitely an excellent thing to test not just your CIOC site on, but every site, your own website as well. And even though we're building the software so that every new thing we put in is mobile friendly, you can still do something to cause a problem. So it's still worth checking that when you change things in a significant way, that you haven't done something that causes an issue. So the things that are most likely to cause an issue that I see is putting a million things in the menu, and then as it gets smaller, it will start to squish into the logo. So after a while, we do bounce the menu down. But if you put in, think about if you put in 8 menu items here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you're on top of your logo, and it looks terrible. So you still need to assess some of your own settings and their impact on mobile. Another one that's really high impact is having too many checkboxes across. People will have 8 checkboxes across, and that's okay on a huge desktop, but as soon as you have someone with a smaller screen, it's no good. And we do eventually wrap, but it takes a while to wrap, so you have to get to tablet size before we start wrapping the checkboxes for you. And if you've put, even 3 or 4 across that have long values, you're going to come up with a problem long before you get to tablet size. Basically, anyone on a smaller size laptop or a really large tablet is going to end up with a problem. So it's still something that you need to evaluate, even though we're building in the tools to do most of it for you. Okay, any questions about those layouts before I get into setup? Okay, I think we're good. I lost my questions window here. Okay, sorry. So now I'm going to talk about all of the new setup that we have. So I'm going to get out of this responsive design view here. So first I'll go to template setup, because we've added a ton of new things to the template setup. So the first thing you'll notice is this entire section on contact information. So right now, only our 2 new footers and the new headers use anything from this contact information section, but over time, even the older templates, if you like them, we're going to start to incorporate these as many of these elements as we can into all of the templates if you want to start using them. So if I have the name and the address here, where this shows up in an actual site is going to be, let me reset this, at the bottom here. Okay, so it's that easy to go and change your contact information. You just go into the template and edit your address and you're done. The footer notices, so again, I'll bring an example up. These are the footer notices. So almost all the footers are going to have at least one spot for a footer notice, and some have 2. This one has 1, 2, and this one only has one place for a footer notice. So they're not all available. Not all settings are available in all templates, so be aware of that. If it doesn't show up, that template probably doesn't support that setting. We've completely reorganized the colors to make it a little bit easier to figure out what does what. So some of them have been renamed, and we've grouped them together into sets so that you can understand this set of colors all goes together. This set of colors all goes together to make it a little bit easier to try and modify these colors. It should be pretty clear. They all have 4, so a background, a border, a text, and an icon color. They won't always be used in all contexts, so sometimes there's no border and you won't see a border. Sometimes there's no icon, you won't see an icon color, but every color has to be filled out. So you should never, never, never do this, ever, ever. And I say that because people do that, and what we have to do is fill in some random color for you, because otherwise the whole thing breaks. So if you do this and leave these blank, the result will be we'll have to just fill some random, usually gray, colors in there for you in order to make the site work. So this is bad. Never, never leave blanks. They're not allowed. We have a few colors that are going away. They only applied to old layouts that we're getting rid of, or have gotten rid of. So these here are being left for transitional purposes, but in the long run, they're going away, if you wonder why they're sitting there separate from all of the other ones. So adding menu items, I said we had added the ability to do grouped menu items. So this is not supported in all templates at the moment, but in the long run it will be. And the idea here is that you can put more in your menu by grouping them into up to 3 groups. Okay, so you can have ungrouped items plus up to 3 drop-downs, and that's for each of the sections. Right now we're only supporting it in the newest headers, so that's the banner, banner header, the dual header, the I think that's it. Yes, the banner header, the dual header, and in the CIC and volunteer search layouts, we also support the drop-downs in the newest one, so the CIC single form search Bootstrap and the volunteer 2 and 6 panel searches. Eventually we will get the drop-downs into all of the searches, but they're not there yet. So don't be confused if you try and set up groups and they don't work, because they're not supported yet in all of the templates, only some of them. In terms of how these work in, say, the volunteer template for the drop-down for the side. So this is an example of what the drop-downs will look like in this kind of a menu. So the change view is, obviously this is not a drop-down that's customized, this is built in, but it behaves the same way. So you can open it within the side menu. It doesn't fly out or pop out, it just opens up and down. So if you added your own custom menu items to this menu that were in a drop-down, then it would work like this. That would open up and then you could access it. So you'll notice that there's a hidden menu. So this is only for staff to get access to the full side menu in this layout. This layout, is not designed to have a side menu, but we still need staff who are accessing the view to be able to get at all of their settings. And the way that we make that work is by having a hidden menu. So if you see this little tab on the side, that's what it's there for. It's to help you get access to the side menu for staff. Go back to the design template setup. So is there any questions about the new settings on the design template based on what you've seen so far? So what we've got for new things is the contact information section, the footer notices. We've added menu groups, which are new. We've reorganized the colors, renamed them, and added quite a lot of new color groups as well. So that's new. And some of the colors are deprecated, meaning they shouldn't be used if you do a custom template because they're going to go away. So that's it for the design template editing that's changed. Obviously, you're going to see new built-in layouts in those lists, of which there are 2 new headers, 1 new community information search form, and 2 new volunteer search forms, and 2 new headers that I demonstrated on some of the live sites earlier. If you want to get really deep into making your own templates and you have some web skills, one of the major changes that we made is the support of something called Sass. So Sass is a way of doing complex CSS where you can actually add some programming elements into your CSS. That's getting very technical, but suffice it to say that that support is available, and that does mean that the CSS is compiled and cannot have errors in it. And so you may find if you edit your CSS and you make a big mistake that the whole site ends up looking bizarre. That is because we are using Sass. And if you make a huge mistake that's not valid CSS, it won't be able to compile the style sheet and it will look terrible. So that's just a red flag if you want to go in and tinker with CSS. Understand that you need to first make sure that it's valid CSS. Sorry for that technical diversion there. Okay, so I'm going to go into the view setup now to talk about how to do some of the customizations. And then I'd like to find out if anyone would like me to go through the process of updating a template so we can see how that works in a practical way. Okay, so the view form has been completely redone from scratch. It looks totally different. This is an example as well of how we're trying to go to responsive form design. So the size of the data entry elements now will shrink and grow with the page. So that'll eventually be rolling out onto all of our feedback forms and everywhere in the software. This is a little preview. So in terms of new settings, there's a huge number of new settings, but I've also done a major reorganization of this page to help you to find what you're looking for, because one of the challenges I think is there's so much on this page that it was just insanely overwhelming to anyone who came in and wanted to try and tinker with it. So all of the elements have been organized into sections, and we've moved some of the help into these little icons. So if I put my mouse over, it's going to give me the help for that particular item instead of as it was before where it was being repeated multiple times through the page and just cluttering up the page and making it even harder to figure out what on earth to do. So by moving all of the help outside of the page and into these little help icons, hopefully it will be easier for everyone to see what they need to work on. So the top section is all the fundamentals of the view. What's it called? What's the title of the database? The title of the database appears, sorry, wrong. Let me bring up a site. The title of the database appears at the top. So volunteering in Simcoe County, for example, is the title of this database. Title of this is just Volunteer Opportunities Database. This is Guelph and Wellington Community Information Database. So that's the title. Sorry, I lost my page. I'll just open it again. The template obviously is choosing what it looks like. Other views it can see, so that applies if you're in the main public view, it'll say which views are public. If it's a view that someone can log into, it will say which views they're allowed to access. So this is the security section. Whether or not they can see the alert column and search results, whether there are links to the volunteer module, this is from the CIC side. And then I've grouped together in one place all of the settings that have to do with what records are accessed in the view. So instead of being scattered all over the form and kind of confusing that there was many different settings to control what data was available in the view, it's all been clustered together now into this one spot. So whatever you choose here affects what you can actually access in that view. Publication data is all clustered together. This is not the publication that controls the records in the view. That would be this one. This is about what's your quick list, what publications can I edit when I'm working in this view, are there any publication codes I want to automatically add to new records in this view. Here's our Google Translate widget I showed you earlier. If you develop a really custom view, like it's not community information at all, it's something else, it's businesses, it's devices, it's hotels, whatever you want to do, then you want access to this. So instead of having, say, organization names all over the software, you can say really great hotels. And then everywhere in the software that would have said organization names is going to say really great hotels in that view. And I can do that for every single thing that mentions it. So instead of saying organizations with website, it's going to say hotels with website. Instead of saying find an organization or program, it could be find a hotel by category. Like I can completely rename that to be anything else. Browse by organization is browse by, you know, hotel name, like whatever you want to do. Okay, so that's what that section does. It's per view, so you can keep your community information database, but launch some completely other database that has different information that's not community information. The My List feature allows you to sort of pick a bunch of records during your session and store them in a list for yourself to work with. Inclusion policy and terms of use, hopefully self-explanatory. All of these are really the same settings you had before. They've just been all linked together. You can see we have a section here, record updating and feedback, all together. All of the settings that have anything to do with record updating and feedback are all in one place now. There's a whole section just on record details, so all of the settings that affect anything to do with record details are together. So extra fields you'll see on the record details form, whether you want to link organization levels, if you want to use the related record sidebar because you do agency site service data, if you want to have a PDF link from the record details, and the ability to manage the record details fields. We've got a section just for searching, so we've organized all the searching stuff into one spot. So you can pick the search tips you want to link, all of the elements you want in your basic search form, if you want to add topic searches or quick searches. So quick searches, for an example, are like this. So this frequently searched, this is set up as a set of quick searches. It's basically any search you can do in the software, you can set those up as links or actually as full search results. In your, if you're using a tab search, you can actually have it show the list of search results right in the front page if you want to with a quick search. This is set up to just do links. So if that was called frequently searched, so if I wanted to do something like that, I would say frequently searched. I would pick an icon. These are Glyph Icons. Bootstrap. Glyph Icons. I see the question. I'll be with you in just a second. These are Glyph Icons. So any of the icons here, Glyph Icons, can be used anywhere that you see in the view setup where it gives you an option for icons. So in the one I just showed you, I'm using the bookmark Glyph Icon, but I can pick any one I want. Trash, why not? So I'll just type the name of the Glyph Icon. That's it, and that will then show up. Manage my quick searches. I've already got some, well, that doesn't really do anything, but I've got a quick search set up there, so that is what would appear in my list of searches. Topic searches are, I'm not going to cover that today because that's getting off on a kind of a sidetrack, but it's kind of like a step-by-step search for community information. Advanced search settings, same as before. Childcare search settings, same as before. All the rest is basically the same. And then we get into a whole section on template and layout options, which again have all been grouped together to be clear that this set of settings is all for things that appear somewhere in your template that you've chosen. So the tagline that I showed you earlier, which is a new setting, this one, that's where you'd set it. You've got your footer message. This is different from the footer notice, so footer messages appear above the footer. So as an example, this is a footer message. Technically, the footer is empty in this site. The footer would go underneath. So a footer message is within the content. You can see that it's contained on either side. This is within the content of the page. A footer notice is actually part of the footer. So you can see here's a footer notice. It's in the footer. If I put a footer message, it would go above the footer here in the content of the page. So that's the difference between the two. There's a question about quick search for volunteer. So we don't have quick search for volunteer yet, but I'm happy to kind of put that on the to-do list. It would be very easy to add the same idea for volunteer. Right now, if you want to do that, the way that you would do it is kind of literally copy the link. So if you wanted to, let me bring up this one here. So this is, if you wanted to have the equivalent of a quick search on this one here, for an example, this would literally be a link to a search. So let me bring something up here. I'll bring up Board of Directors. So I would just copy and paste this and put it into one of the menu items of my template. So that's the way that you would do that now in the volunteer software. So you can do it. It just works differently from the quick search idea and the community information side. In the community information side, you can actually have the results pull up right on the front page. That's part of what quick search does, is it's not just a list of links. If you use a tab search and you pick the option called Promote to Tab, then a tab with the results will appear right in your search page. So you won't even have to click through to get results. It'll just immediately pull it up right on the front page of the search. Why would you ever do that? So we have some people who've set up views that have almost no records in them, like 20 records, and they basically want the person to be able to access the view, and right from the front page it just lists the 20 records. As instead of having a search, there's no point in having a search if you've only got 20 records. You just want to list them. So quick search makes that possible. So I could have even 4 tabs, and the first tab had transportation services, and it would list 20 services there, and the second tab has other kinds of, I don't know, whatever, hotels or whatever, and you could have different tabs that each just brought up the full list of items instead of having a search form at all. So quick searches are more than just links. That's one way to do it, but they can do a lot more than that. Versus if you just want to be able to link to a particular search, like you want to bring up the list of holiday opportunities. Let's say it's getting to be Christmas time, and let's say that I want to take down the one that says featured, and instead I want it to say holiday and use a tree icon. like a Christmas tree. So one of the Bootstrap icons that's available is a tree. So I would just use tree, and I would change the word featured in the link to say holiday. And I would click on the area of interest search for holiday opportunities, holiday festive volunteering, and I would copy this. And I would actually copy from here. I don't need this part. I just need from the slash forward, and put that in my design template setup, and instantly that's what I have in my 6-panel search is holiday festive volunteering. So is anyone keen enough that they want me to actually walk through that setup of doing that exact thing I just said? Okay, I'll do that. Oh, I think there may be. Yes, okay. So let's try this out. So I'm going to go into my design template setup. I think it's called Glyph Test. There we go. And it's going to have, here we go. Let's change this last one here. Instead of saying featured, it's going to say holiday. I'm going to go to my lovely Bootstrap Glyph Icon page here and find out the name of the icon I want to use. It's called something like tree. Tree conifer. Looks like a Christmas tree. Perfect. So I'm going to change the Glyph Icon icon here to say Glyph Icon. Instead of blackboard, it's going to say tree, conifer. And then I'm going to link to the actual search results, which are going to be, I had them up here a second ago. Here we go. Too many windows open. Okay, I'm actually do AI code equals holiday. I don't think I have any opportunities in my database that are under that result, but we'll see. So that's it. That's me making the change. So I changed the word featured, and then this is an icon link that I can happily show anyone how to do in their menu items if they want that. And I changed it from the blackboard to the tree. So I'll submit it. And I'll go have a look. And now it says holiday, and it has a tree. And if I click it, it's looking for holiday festival volunteering. I don't have any in my own database that are classified that, so it came up with no results, but you can see that it did the right search. So it did in areas of interest, holiday festive, and I changed my icon. And so that's how easy it is to do. So a similar thing can be done on the community information side. So you can put all kinds of different searches into your menu. You can add icons in exactly the same way. So one example is here, the I next to the community information. That's just done exactly the same way. That's a Glyph Icon. And this cog next to the 4 organizations, it's a Glyph Icon. So you can add any of the ones from Glyph Icon, and we also have the ability to add icons from another library called Font Awesome. And I know the name is ridiculous, but yeah, so we have a one-click include of a whole different font icon library called Font Awesome. And Font Awesome is actually the one that we're using to do the service category icons here. So it has an even bigger set of icons than Bootstrap Glyph Icon. I like the Bootstrap ones better. I think they're more attractive than the Font Awesome ones. They're certainly more consistent looking. So I will always pick to use the Bootstrap ones first, but there's just so much more variety in the Font Awesome library. So that is, if you want to see what Font Awesome does, this is the Font Awesome site, and it has just a crazy number of icons available to, like, if you can't find it, it has a lot. So Again, that's a one-click include. If you want to use Font Awesome, right in your template, you just check the box and you're done, and you have access to Font Awesome icons. And there's instructions right on the Font Awesome site about how to use them. But it's as easy as just clicking Use Font Awesome. So it's right here, Include Font Awesome. I just check it off, and that's it. Then you have access to all those Font Awesome icons. And Bootstrap ones are included automatically because we're using them all over the place. Okay, I'll continue on with our view setup so we can again see how to customize some spots in your template with the view setup. I'm sorry, I'm going to run over time. My apologies. I should have actually scheduled a lot longer for this session. I knew it would be long. So down here at the bottom in this template and layout options, we've already talked about the tagline, the footer, the search menu. So you can add text right into the menu that's not a link. You can also customize the label of the menu and add an icon to it. So I'm going to pick a view that I actually know which one I'm working in. Let's use this one so I can show you the results. So if I want to change the menu information, so I'll give it a title of Great Menu. I'm going to pick an icon, cloud. I know that's one, so that gives me something easy. And there's my message. Let's have a look at what that actually looks like. Okay, so here we go. We've got our cloud. It says Great Menu. And here's the menu message. Okay. And if I had specified that the menu icon was a different color, like green, like this one is, then that cloud would be green instead of white. That's in the design template where you pick the colors. All right, so next section, we have our left and right menu messages and alert. So we'll start with alert. So alert is great for some timely but important information that you want to put on your site. So if there's an emergency in your community and you want to highlight like help Syrian refugees or flood on Main Street or whatever is going on, you can quickly go into your alert and provide a link. And that's the same for volunteer because maybe there's volunteer opportunities around some kind of an urgent issue and you want to be able to highlight those in a really major way. So every template that's built in has a spot for alerts. And I'll use the alert icon, although there's, again, you use any icon you want. Give it some content. Okay. So depending on your template, it will maybe appear in different spots, but that's the idea, that it gives you a way to put something really prominent into your page quickly. So that's for search alert. Next, we have our search right and left messages. So search left and right are what I used to put, for instance, this Twitter feed in. So this is a search right message. It's on the right and it's a custom box. So that's a search right message. And you can put literally anything you want in it. There's no restriction, HTML of whatever kind, with JavaScript to do, pulling an RSS feed or calendar information or whatever. If I did the search left, I would get another box, but on the left at the top here. And on a template like this one, here's our search left message right here. And if I did a search right, it would actually appear down here underneath the service category list. So every template has a spot for search left and search right, at least on the CIC side. And the volunteer side, if you're using the two-panel search, we don't have search left and right in the same way. So you can't do the same thing, unfortunately, but most of them do have a spot for search left and search right. So on this one, it'll be two different panels, but on the volunteer search, this one, it's literally a two-panel search. You can't change it. There's no search left, search right at the moment, although we could in the future add two more boxes, search left, search right, that went underneath this, but you would want to use both or it would look terrible. Okay. And then I already explained footer message, so that's it for the template customization areas. There's also some labels that I've skipped past here somehow. Oh, it's only in the volunteer side. Here, let me go to volunteer menu, because there are a couple of settings that only the volunteer has. So on the volunteer menu, we have a few extra settings. One is the spotlight opportunity. Again, right now, only the 6-panel search supports spotlight opportunity. We may try and figure out a way to build that into the other templates in the future, but right now, that's the only spot. If I put a specific num, like VABC00001, it's going to pull that up every time I load the page. If I put anything else in there, like any, then it will randomly pull an opportunity. Any one that's available and not expired, it will just pick it randomly, and every time I load the page, I'll get a different one. There's 2 extra titles you can edit on the volunteer side. Where are they? There we go. Right here. So basic search, there's an other title and icon. So that works on our 2-panel search here. So if I want to change this and I don't want it to say or browse by, I want it to say explore these options or something briefer than that. I can put any text I want in the other title, and the icon is changed there as well. The other extra setting is the keyword. So basic keyword search, this is only for volunteer. Again, on the 2-panel search, you can see that's this box. So if I edit the title and icon there, it's going to pick a different value for the title and the icon on this box. And those settings are only volunteer settings, and everything else is basically the same between both. Any questions about all that view setup stuff before I move on? Okay. So I'm now going to, I'm just going to take a quick look at our list of features and make sure that I didn't miss anything in the software before I move to the next thing. So have patience with me just for a moment here so that I can make sure I didn't miss anything. So the accessibility updates, this is ongoing. The pages of all of the software are sort of gradually being assessed for accessibility to make sure that we're doing as much best practice as possible for people with visual impairment. So this is an ongoing, and I welcome input if you have someone who actually uses a screen reader and they're having a specific problem to report it to me, and I'll see what I can do about it. I think everything else is just the WordPress stuff. Yes, okay, so now we're getting into WordPress fun. So we've had for a very long time, many years, a search and details API built into the software. And people have built some very cool sites using our remote search and details API, but it requires technical skill to use. So you have to either be a developer or hire a developer in order to make use of the search and details API. So for those who are not so technically inclined or want something really simple, now we've got what we're calling a feed API. It's a small, simple API that you can use with little to no technical skill, and It only accesses regular publicly available information. The amount of information you can get is highly limited, and you don't need to log into the database to use it. It uses a token system where a key is passed back and forth to say that they're allowed to use the API instead of giving them a whole login to the database. So basically, it's a API light, an easier to use API that you can consider giving to smaller organizations or partners in your community that don't need to implement a full searchable database that our full API can do. How are you going to use this? So some examples of what this is meant to do. On the volunteer side, I'll start with getting it in your own website. So this is a Volunteer Connection sponsored the initial WordPress plugin for the volunteer side, and I've since expanded it, and also I'm started on one for the community information side. So the feeds that we saw on the 6-panel layout, the what's new, popular categories and organizations, this feed allows them to have this in their own website. So the exact same things that you would get from the 6-panel search on the CIOC site, this is their own WordPress site, and it's pulling that data live out of the database and presenting it here. And if I click in these links, they'll go into the full database. So that this is not like the full API in that there's no intention that all of the data will be available from the API. The intention is still to get the full information. You have to go back to your regular CIOC database. So it will never be, not this feed API anyway, it will never be based on, I'm going to operate entirely in my site. It's going to be, I'm going to have some small amount of useful information in my site, and if people want more information, they need to click through to the full database to get it. Okay. So besides these 3 simple feeds, we've got a few other use cases now that I've added since putting this part together. And one of them is the ability to pull up a list of opportunities for a specific organization. What does that mean? If you're a volunteer center who has strong partnerships with member organizations, they can install this plugin on their own site and have a page on their site that displays all their volunteer opportunities. That's live from your database. So without any extra work other than one line on their website, they can always have a current listing of their volunteer postings live out of your database. On the community information side, it's just started. I put together enough to give an example of what's possible, but let's say you on your own site want to be able to list holiday services like special volunteer donation opportunities or whatever on your site at this time of year. You tag them on with a pub code and it will feed just that list, and you can put it as a blog post or on a page on your site, and it's live information. Or you want to be able to list a particular set of services that all fall under a specific taxonomy term. I want to list all the ESL services on one page. Because it's a newcomer site or something, and you can do that with the API now. It'll do a really simple listing of all of the things that fall under one particular taxonomy code or publication code, and there's even a newest feed which would allow you to show all the recent additions to your database. So the feed APIs are limited in quantity. You can't pull full sets of data. So for instance, listing by pub code or taxonomy code, you can't bring it up more than 50 records. So if you have more than 50, it's only going to show the first 50 results. And we'll work on that and kind of figure out what the right number is and how to make sure that there's a more info link if there's more opportunity or more records. But for now, know that that's the restriction. You can't pull 5,000 records through the feed API. It's not meant to do something like that. It's meant for showing small amounts of information. So with that introduction, we're going to from scratch have a go at working with the WordPress plugin. So, there's a question about, is it available for only WordPress? So the API is available for anyone, but I've only written a plugin for WordPress. If you want a plugin for Joomla, You could write one. You can hire me to write one. That's fine, whatever you want to do. The WordPress plugin is open source. So if someone wants to basically copy it and use it direct in PHP or in another kind of content management system that's not WordPress, go for it. The whole goal of having it be open source is I'm very happy to have someone else copy that work and use it in another way or contribute to the project so that maybe we also have Joomla support or any other CMS that you want to do it for. So we're going to start from scratch so you can see what this is like. And I'm literally starting from scratch. I've never installed this plugin on my site. So we're going to cross fingers that this works well. So at the moment, the plugin is hosted on our GitHub open source repository. I am planning to submit the WordPress plugin to the WordPress.org repository, which would mean that you could get it right from searching in WordPress and do automatic updates and all of that, but it's not there yet. So for now, if you want to use it, you actually have to come to our GitHub repository and download one of the 2 zips here. So I've already got these saved locally, but all you would basically do is save the links here, either the CIOC volunteer.zip or CIOC communityinfo.zip. Since I already have them on my local computer, I don't need to do that. From your WordPress admin area, there's a thing that looks like a plug. That's the plugins. So I will just pick Add New. And my own website is not as fast as CIOC, so we're going to have to be patient here for a second, apparently. Come on. There we go. All right. Because this is not in the WordPress directory, so when it is in the WordPress directory, you'll just type CIOC in this search box and poof, it'll come up, but it's not there. So we have to do upload. So I'm going to browse for the zip file. I'll start with the volunteer one. So CIOC volunteer.zip. Install. Oh my goodness. Apparently my own site is very, very slow today. There we go. I need to activate it now. So I'm going to click Activate Plugin. If you don't activate it, it won't work. So I'll do the volunteer one first, and then I'll do the same and just show how the CIC one works. So now I can see CIOC volunteer feeds. It's activated because it says deactivate, and it has the bar next to it to show that it's active. That means it's ready to use. So I'm going to make a new blog post, and we're going to try using it. Okay. So there's going to be documentation available on this, so don't worry about remembering what I'm telling you because it's not necessary to do that. But the way that it works is through something called shortcodes. So shortcodes in WordPress are basically a quick way to access a function in your WordPress plugin, and ours is called CIOC Volunteer. So we're going to need a few things to get started, and one of them is a key. So this is where I said I needed volunteers. So I'm going to go to somebody's site. So whose site can I use? Oh, and someone's asking if this is being recorded. It absolutely is, and fingers crossed that the video works this time because it didn't work last time. So do I have a volunteer to go on their site and get a feed of data? Okay, I can use Guelphs. Excellent. Thank you, Chantal. All right, so we're going to go to Guelph's site. I'm going to log in. Again, you can set these up for as many people as you want. It's not a big security problem. They can't access anything that's not public. So if you want to give a key to all of your member organizations, go for it. There's no problem with doing that. So we've got this section, API sharing and export. I'm going to do basic data feed API keys. Add a new one. This is going to be KCL test. I'm going to activate it for both databases. Okay, so now I have a key. Here it is. I'm going to copy it. That's my key. If I want to deactivate it later, I can actually inactivate it. So where is my thing? Here we go. So that's the first thing I need, key. Oh, and I didn't put the URL, so that will not work. Pardon me for a second. I need to remember what the settings are myself. URL, there we go. Sorry for showing you code there. So URL is your website, so it's going to be community links.ciarc.ca. Okay. My site is apparently the slowest thing ever. Okay, well, while that's taking forever, I'm going to, I can show you a local one instead, if that's being too slow. I'm going to cheat and use a local WordPress site because there's obviously something going on with my own website right now. So this is just a test one. So I'll set this up with the community links site on this community links key. So I'm just doing exactly the same thing I was doing over there, but I'm going to do it on my own site that is working. Okay. Okay. So by default, if I do nothing, it's going to do a what's new feed. So this is live out of the Glyph database. And if I do no other settings other than the key and the URL, this is what I get. It's the name of the position, the date it was posted, and the name of the organization. So that's, you know, absolute bare minimum. I'm not doing anything else kind of thing. So I can start to then add more and more things to this to make it more interesting. So the first thing I can do is say, if you know absolutely nothing about making your site pretty, you can use an option called Style Me, which is going to, actually I'll leave that for last. Let's turn on duties and location. Oh, did I spell it wrong? That's lock. No. Sorry, now I'm duties, that is location. Why are you not? I'm going to go back to what I had before, so I know. Let's go. Didn't restore it. Oh, and of course now it's going to not obey me. There we go. All right, so now that I've got one that I know is working, I can do the same thing here and just do links. It's not going to work there because that's newest, and I need your key. Where did that go? Here we go. There's a question. Anyway, so what you can show in terms of having it work is you can do the location of the opportunity, the organization, the duties. So you can turn all those on and off. This is a feed of the popular categories. This is a feed of the organizations. It'll do a what's new, and it'll also do by any specific area of interest. So if you, for instance, wanted to have a page of just the holiday ones up, there's a code that you can use to say that you want to just feed holiday opportunities, or you want to just feed basically any of the areas of interest. So in the future, I would expect that we would add in the ability to do it by suitability or something else. So for suitability for things that are maybe hard to come by, like the opportunities for court-ordered service, or ones for visual impairment, or something that is harder to find a position for. If you wanted to have a special listing page for those on your own site, that you would be able to pull up specifically those things. For your individual organizations, it's done by organization. So the way that it works is you would do type equals org and num equals, and then you put the agency record number, and it will pull up all of the opportunities for that particular agency. And then you can do things like turn off the display of the organization name, because you know they're all from the same opportunity. So all of the documentation about how to use these codes is going to be posted. It's not right now, so my apologies. Even I have to keep checking to remember what all of the settings are. But we'll have full documentation about all of the different settings that you can use. But they do things like say which fields you want, and if you want to apply styles to it to have it look a particular way, if you want to have the icons show up or not show up. Any of those things are all little tweaks and settings that you can do, but then it draws the data live out of the database. So you don't have to, this is probably the preview that's messing me up. totally was the preview that was messing me up. Now it's doing Guelph. So there you go. That's the solution. It was WordPress preview messing with me. So now we can see all the Guelph opportunities. But these are drawing live out of the Guelph database. So if I want, for instance, to add duties to this one, so right now I have location is on, but I don't have duties on. So if I want to turn duties on, I just say duties is on and update. And I should be able to reload because I'm not in preview mode anymore. And there's the duties. Yay! Bad preview mode. So there's a question about the 50 limit. So here's the situation. So this was done mainly experimentally. So we did the initial development for Community Connection, just the tiniest little feeds, these ones for the 3 boxes. So since then, just in the last few days, I've added everything else you're seeing, which it's up for negotiation. So I wanted to do enough to give all of you ideas about what was possible, and then we can talk about what's realistic to put in, like changing the limit or having the limit be something that's a setting in the shortcode or any of those things. The one thing I will say about this particular plugin and API is it's intended to be a lightweight one. So the other possibility that I hope at some point we'll do is a WordPress plugin that uses our full API, which will allow you to do all of the internal searching and everything right in your site without knowing programming, where you just install the plugin and it works. But that's a whole other level. So this one right here is intended to be very simple, and that's part of the reason for the limit of 50 is it's really not meant to have huge amounts of data, but it's all negotiable. So if this is something you want to do and this is exciting to you and you think, hey, that I want to offer this to my partners in the community because, they've got a website and they would really love to be able to list live data of all of this kind of service on their website that's always up to date. This is the kind of thing that I want you to be thinking about, and we can tweak it to make it work for your use cases, but I need to know what those are. So I put enough in for you to get ideas, and then we'll go from there. And you can see that even with just the little bit that's been done, and I think this is pretty awesome. If you can go to your member organizations, for instance, and say, hey, look, make a blog post or a page on your WordPress site and instantly have all the listing of the opportunities live up on your site at all times, that's pretty awesome service to be able to offer them. And the same holds true for all different kinds of partner organizations, not just for volunteer centers, but on the community information side as well. Speaking of the community information side, let's just have a quick look at that as well, because we obviously have an initial one for the community information side. Okay. I'm going to take preview off here. Okay. All right, so this one is currently feeding out of Community Connections database, and this is the community information side. So it's the same kind of deal, and ignore this. This is me purposefully printing the that out, so that won't normally be there. So the idea here again is you can choose the pieces that you want to show. So if you just wanted to list the organization names, you can do that, and then you can turn on address, email, website, phone, and hours. So there's hours, for example. The icons can be turned on and off, although I think they're pretty cute. But we don't allow full fields. So this is a limited API. You can't have, if you want to be able to customize the field list, you need to use the full API. This is not designed to be that sledgehammer to do everything, but it's really great for small listings. So right now this works by, there's a what's new feed, so you could have a page on your site that showed newly added organizations and programs to your database, like just, for the information of the community. There is a listing by publication code, and there is a listing by taxonomy term. So if I wanted to show, this one, for example, is using DM 1500, which is like some kind of financial services thing. So it's going to list anything at that level or below on that taxonomy branch. And it may be that we then investigate doing complicated taxonomy searches that with linked terms and all that stuff. But right now, this was just me doing it as a proof of concept so you could see what we could do. And all it does is one taxonomy code at a time. But even with just one taxonomy code at a time, it's pretty cool. Are there any more questions about how that works? I think I've got a couple of questions here. I've lost my questions window. One moment, I've lost it. Okay. Here we go. I think I might have lost a couple of the last couple of questions. So if you've asked a question that I haven't answered, if you could ask it again, because I think I've accidentally deleted some questions. Okay, well that's the basics. So you can go ahead and get started using it now if you want. I expect within the next couple of weeks we'll hopefully get the plugin approved on the WordPress directory so that people will be able to just browse from the list of WordPress plugins, and that the nice thing about having it there is they'll be able to get automatic updates. So as we add new features or make changes, we can make sure that it keeps working over time because they'll always be able to easily update the plugin and not get stuck with it not working after a software upgrade or something. All right, if you have any questions that are not to do with the session, I'm going to stop the recording now and you can ask me after the session, or you can contact me later. And I will attempt to put this video up, assuming that it does better than last time when we had a corrupted video. So hopefully there will be a functional video at the end of this, and it will be posted on YouTube within the next week or so. Thanks.